If you followed true crime at all, especially over the last, say, 30 years, you definitely know the name. The 1991 Austin yogurt shop murders.
Absolutely. It's a case that casts such a long shadow, not just over Austin, but really, it became this symbol of, well, of investigative struggles, wrongful convictions, just this deep, enduring mystery.
Right, and it felt like one of those cases that might never be solved. But then, this week, 34 years later, boom, a significant breakthrough announcement.
A massive one. And we're diving straight into that today because the core of this is, frankly, staggering. Modern DNA science, specifically genetic genealogy, has identified the killer.
But here's the twist, the real gut punch of it all.
He died decades ago, took his own life back in 1999. So we have the answer, but there's no trial, no courtroom.
Exactly. Resolution, but maybe not justice in the traditional sense. That's the tension we really want to explore today. We've gone through the sources, the reports detailing the original crime, the long investigation, the science involved.
And the tragic missteps along the way. To really get the weight of this breakthrough, you need to understand how horrific this crime was. December 6th, 1991. 4 teenage girls.
So young. Amy Ayers was just 13, Eliza Thomas, 17. And sisters Jennifer Harbison, 17, and Sarah Harbison, 15.
Found inside the, I can't believe it's, yogurt shop. 2 of them worked there. They were bound, gagged, shot in the head, execution style.
And then the killer set the shop on fire. That act, that fire, it was devastating for the investigation right from the start, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely critical. It didn't just destroy the building. It compromised so much potential forensic evidence. Burned, damaged, contaminated.
Yeah.
It hobbled the investigation from day one.
Which sort of explains maybe how things went so wrong later.
It certainly contributed. That lack of clear physical evidence early on meant the investigation just floundered for years. Thousands of leads, dead ends.
And false confessions, too, right? That seemed to be a recurring issue.
Sadly, yes. Multiple unreliable confessions clouded the picture. And that uncertainty, that pressure to solve such a high-profile, horrific crime, it led directly to a terrible injustice.
The 1999 arrests.
Exactly. 8 years after the murders, 4 young men were arrested. Robert Springsteen and Michael Scott were teenagers at the time. Also Maurice Pierce and Forrest Wellborn.
And they confessed, initially.
They did initially, but almost immediately they recanted those confessions. They alleged intense police pressure, coercive interrogation techniques, things that were perhaps more common then, but are viewed very differently now.
But the confessions stuck, at least legally, for a while.
But they did. Despite the recantations, Springsteen was convicted, even sentenced to death row initially, though that was later reduced to life. Scott was also convicted. They spent years, formative years, in prison for a crime they didn't commit.
Until 2009, that's when things really shifted, forensically speaking.
Right. New DNA testing became available, technology that just didn't exist in 91. Prosecutors themselves cited these new tests.
And what did they find?
They found DNA from an unknown male, a profile that definitively wasn't any of the 4 men who had been charged. It exonerated them.
So the courts overturned the convictions?
Yes, a judge ordered them freed. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals eventually overturned the convictions, ruling those coerced confessions shouldn't have been used against them, especially in light of the new DNA.
But the timing, connecting back to the actual killer, that's the really brutal part.
It's almost unbelievable. The man now identified as the killer, Robert Brashers. He died in 1999.
Wait. 1999, that's the same year they arrested Springsteen and the others?
About 8 months before those wrongful charges were filed. Think about that. The actual perpetrator was already dead by his own hand before these innocent men were ever accused.
Wow, that just adds another layer of tragedy.
It really underscores why investigators kept pushing, kept holding on to that damaged evidence, hoping technology would eventually catch up.
Which brings us to the breakthrough technology, genetic genealogy. This isn't just standard DNA matching, is it?
No, not at all. It's much more complex and, frankly, revolutionary for cold cases like this. Walk us through how it actually works.
Okay, so basically, investigators take that unknown DNA profile from the crime scene, the one that didn't match the accused men, and they upload it to public genealogy databases.
The kind people use to trace their family history, right? Like Ancestry DNA or 23andMe, but specifically ones law enforcement can access through warrant or user consent policies.
Exactly, and they're not usually looking for a direct match, like a parent or sibling. They're looking for relatives, maybe third, fourth, fifth cousins, people who share distant ancestors.
And once they find those distant relatives who have voluntarily uploaded their DNA,
They start building family trees. meticulously working backward, generation by generation, using public records, obituaries, everything they can find to try and pinpoint a common ancestor. Then they build forward again, identifying potential individuals who fit the profile, right age, right location, potentially.
It's incredibly detailed work, and in this case, that painstaking process led them to one name: Robert Eugene Brashers.
A name completely unknown to the investigation before this.
Completely. Zero known ties to Austin, never questioned, never on the radar in some of 4 years, just a ghost in the files until the DNA hit.
And his death. You mentioned a standoff.
Yes, in 1999, he shot himself during a standoff with police in a motel in Kennett, Missouri, oddly enough, far from Austin.
So the science provided the who, but his death years prior meant no arrest, no trial for the yogurt shop murders.
Correct. But the story doesn't end there. That DNA link did something else. It didn't just solve the Austin case.
It identified him as a potential serial killer.
Exactly. The DNA connected Brashers to 3 other major unsolved violent crimes across the country, bringing the total number of murders potentially linked to him down to 7.
7 victims. Okay, hold on. This changes everything. What were the other cases? When did these connections happen?
These links started emerging around 2018, almost 20 years after Brashers died, again through DNA.
Wow. So what crimes are we talking about?
Okay, first, a 1990 murder in South Carolina. A woman strangled. Then, a 1997 rape of a 14-year-old girl in Tennessee.
And the 7th victim.
A 1998 double murder in Missouri. A mother and daughter, both shot.
So South Carolina, Tennessee, Missouri, Texas, spanning nearly a decade. And he was completely off the radar the entire time.
Until genetic genealogy connected the dots decades after his death.
Yeah.
It's a chilling testament to how this technology is a game changer for cold cases. Absolutely.
And presumably the investigation continues now, trying to trace his movements.
Oh, for sure. Authorities are now trying to piece together his life. Where did he live? Where did he work, travel? They're looking to see if his profile, his method, his MO matches other unsolved cases, particularly involving violence against women.
So even though he's dead, the search for the full extent of his crimes is very much active.
Definitely. It's about finding answers for potentially other victims, other families.
Speaking of families, this news for the Austin victims' families, it must be incredibly complex. Relief, pain, anger, all mixed together.
Incredibly difficult. Authorities made it clear they prioritized informing the families directly before any public announcement, giving them time to process.
It's important, too, to remember the girls themselves, beyond the case.
Absolutely. Eliza Thomas, who loved country music, dreamed of modeling. Jennifer and Sarah Harbison, the sisters, they raised sheep together, apparently inseparable. And Amy Ayers, the youngest, she loved horses, an equestrian, just teenagers with their whole lives ahead.
And for the 4 men wrongly accused, this is absolute undeniable vindication.
Complete vindication. Robert Springsteen, Michael Scott. They lived for years under this cloud, this taint, as the reports say, of being accused killers. That's finally definitively lifted.
Though not for all of them, sadly.
No. Maurice Pierce, another of the 4 initially accused, he died back in 2010 following an encounter with police. He never got to see this day, this final confirmation of his innocence in this specific crime.
It just shows how deep the damage of a wrongful accusation runs. Even when the truth comes out, it's often too late for some.
It really is. Science provided the truth here, but it can't undo the years lost or the lives irrevocably changed by those early mistakes.
So recapping this deep dive, Austin's most infamous cold case, solved through genetic genealogy. The killer identified as Robert Brashers, a man who died in 1999.
Who we now know was likely a serial killer linked to at least 7 deaths across multiple states.
And critically, the 4 men wrongly convicted back in the 90s are now fully, unequivocally exonerated by this finding.
But it leaves us with this profound question, doesn't it? We have the truth. The killer is identified, but he's dead. He can't face justice in a courtroom.
Right. So what does that mean? Is the goal knowledge, truth, or is it conviction? Has the mission been accomplished here?
It's a tough one. For the families, having that answer, knowing who did it, and knowing the men previously blamed are innocent, that knowledge itself can be incredibly powerful, a form of closure maybe.
But for the justice system, does it feel incomplete without that final legal step, the trial, the verdict?
Arguably, yes. The system's built around that process. But maybe cases like this force us to reconsider what solving a crime means, especially decades later.
It definitely feels like this case marks a shift. It shows that even a suspect's death isn't necessarily the end of the story anymore, not with genetic genealogy.
Think about all the other cold cases out there. Unidentified remains, decades-old files. This technology has the potential to rewrite so much history.
A powerful thought. What other secrets are waiting in those old files ready to be uncovered by science?
We'll leave you to ponder that. The past isn't always as buried as we think.